The air was thick with tension, the kind that makes your heart pound so loud you can hear it over the crash of waves. On the deck of the USS Valor, a young sharpshooter named Ellie stood clutching her .50 caliber rifle, her fingers trembling not from fear but from defiance. An admiral, all pomp and polished medals, loomed over her, his hand outstretched, demanding her weapon with a smirk that said he'd already won. But Ellie? She wasn't just a sailor, she was a force, and she was about to show him why you never mess with a woman and her rifle. Ellie grew up in a small Montana town, where the mountains stretched wide and the wind carried the scent of pine and gunpowder. Her dad, a grizzled hunter, taught her to shoot before she could ride a bike. That .50 cal wasn't just a weapon, it was an extension of her soul, forged through years of sweat-soaked practice in the blistering sun and freezing snow. She'd lie on her belly for hours, her breath steady, her eyes locked on targets a mile away, learning to feel the rifle's kick like a heartbeat. By the time she joined the Navy at 19, she was a legend in her town, the girl who could thread a bullet through a keyhole from half a county away. But the Navy wasn't ready for Ellie. They saw her slight frame, her quiet voice, and assumed she'd fold under pressure. They were wrong. And on that fateful day aboard the USS Valor, Admiral Hargrove was about to learn just how wrong. Can you imagine the fire in her eyes as she faced him down? The ship rocked gently under a gray sky, the crew gathered on deck for a routine training drill. Ellie had been selected for a sharpshooting demonstration, 6 targets set at impossible distances, bobbing on buoys in the choppy sea. The Admiral, a man who'd never fired a shot in combat, strutted forward, his voice booming with authority. "Hand over the rifle, sailor," he barked. "Let's see if it's the gun or the girl." The crew snickered, but Ellie's grip tightened. Her rifle wasn't standard issue, it was custom, a gift from her dad before he passed, engraved with her initials on the stock. Giving it up felt like handing over her heart. She met Hargrove's gaze, her voice low but steady. "With respect, sir, this rifle stays with me." The crowd went silent. His face reddened and he reached for the barrel. In one fluid motion, Ellie twisted away, her strength surprising him, his hand grasping air as he stumbled. The crew gasped. Had she just defied an admiral? Oh, but she wasn't done yet. Ellie was about to make history. The admiral's eyes narrowed, his pride stung like a fresh wound. "Fine," he spat. "Hit those targets or you're done." Ellie didn't flinch. She could feel the weight of every stare, the salty spray on her face, the rifle's familiar heft against her shoulder. She knelt, her knees pressing into the cold steel deck, and peered through the scope. The first target, a rusted buoy, danced in the waves 1,000 yards out. Her breath slowed, her world narrowing to that single point. She squeezed the trigger. The crack echoed like thunder, and the buoy shattered, its pieces vanishing into the foam. The crew murmured, but Ellie didn't hear them. She was already on the next target, then the next, each shot a perfect dance of precision and power. By the 5th, even Hargrove's scowl faltered. The 6th target was the farthest, barely a speck against the horizon. Her hand steadied, but her mind flashed to her dad, his rough hands guiding hers, his voice whispering, "You're unstoppable, Elle." She fired. The buoy exploded. The crew erupted in cheers, but Ellie's heart was racing for a different reason. What would Hargrove do now? The Admiral stood frozen, his authority crumbling like the targets in the sea. Ellie rose, her rifle still in her hands, and faced him. She expected rage, maybe punishment. Instead, Hargrove's lips twitched into a reluctant smile. "Sailor," he said, his voice softer now, "you've got grit." He extended his hand, not for the rifle but for a handshake. Ellie hesitated, her pride warring with her duty. She shook his hand, firm and unyielding, and the crew roared again. But for Ellie it wasn't about the applause. It was about proving something deeper, not just to Hargrove but to herself. She'd stood her ground, protected what mattered, and hit every mark. Yet, as she looked out at the sea, a pang hit her. Her dad wasn't here to see it. His absence was a quiet ache, but it fueled her fire. Would she ever feel whole without him? That night, Ellie sat alone on the deck, the stars bright above the endless ocean. She ran her fingers over the rifle's engraving, her dad's gift, his belief in her etched into the wood. She'd faced down an admiral, silenced the doubters, and turned a routine drill into a legend whispered across the ship. But the victory felt bittersweet. She missed her dad's laugh, his stories by the campfire, the way he'd call her his sharpshooter. Yet, as the waves lapped against the hull, she felt him in the weight of the rifle, in the strength of her hands. She'd honored him today not just by shooting straight but by standing tall. Ellie looked up at the sky, a single tear tracing her cheek, and whispered, "I did it, Dad." The stars seemed to shine brighter as if he was watching. And in that moment she knew she'd carry his legacy one perfect shot at a time. Can you feel the weight of her triumph, the love that drove her to defy the odds?